Guten Erev Shabbos. This week's parsha tells us that Noach was a tzaddik in his generation. The Midrash elaborates on that and says that only in his generation was he a tzaddik, but had he lived in the generation of Avraham, Moshe Rabbeinu, or David, he would have not been considered anything. And it begs the question, why are we contrasting his life with the life of these specific great giants, Avraham, Moshe, and David? Explains the Rebbe that actually each one of these great tzaddikim introduced something special to their time and to their era. And Noach had elements of those things, of those ideas in his life. Let's start with Avram. Avram, one of his uniquenesses was that he stood in his faith of Hashem against the entire world. It didn't bother him that everybody else felt one way. He was committed to the truth despite everybody else. You know, they tell a story of someone who calls, a wife calls up her husband. She says, "You're driving on the 376, get off this highway immediately because there's someone that's a maniac who's driving in the wrong direction." To which he replies, "One maniac, there's many cars driving in the wrong direction." But you see, so long as we're going in the right direction, we can stand alone against the entire world. This was Avram, and Noach had elements of this in his own life. He also stood against the corruption of so many in his generation. Moving on to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu introduced the Torah to the world, and the Torah stabilized the world. It brings stability to the world. The Pasuk says, Eretz Yarav Shakata, before Matan Torah, before the Jews were given the Torah, the world trembled. Stability was brought through Torah. Well, Noach also brought stability to the world because he built the ark and he brought about the survival of the few people and animals that built the world after the flood. So he also had the idea of stability. What did David HaMelech introduce to the world? David HaMelech introduced to the world the idea of Mashiach, a time when the world will not just be stabilized but will be elevated. Well, within Noach's teva, within Noach's ark, there too, the animals live together, they coexist, is similar to the way the prophet describes the way it will be when Mashiach comes. V'gar zevim keves, the wolf will lie together with the lamb. So Noach introduced elements of what would come further and be expanded upon by Avram, Moshe, and David. A teacher once said showed a little tiny seed to his students, and he said, "What do you see here?" So the student said, "A seed." He said, "I don't see a seed, I see a tree that's one day will provide food and will provide shade and will provide life to many." Similarly, Noach planted the seed which expanded in the times of Avram and Moshe and David. This is really what education is all about. We have to educate our children to stand strong in their beliefs against the entire world, and also to be connected to Torah and to incorporate Torah into their lives, and to also recognize that they can actually elevate the world through doing a mitzvah and learning Torah. It's just that we don't necessarily create the final product. We plant the seed, we invest in them, and they grow into be a fine tree expressing everything that Avram, David, and Moshe brought into the world. Have a wonderful Shabbos.